All right, we are live now, and this is the Puckin Awesome podcast. I am LA Kings Game on both Reddit and Twitter, and with me is Aisha.
Hi, I am Aisha. I am the resident depressed Bruins fan.
Ari.
Hi, I'm Ari. I am your resident ecstatic Blackhawks fan.
Cassie.
I'm Cassie, and I am the very sad Sabres fan.
We have Lorzad, aka Cora or Corey.
I'm the Leafs fan who's going right as scheduled for the Leafs this season.
And we have Terry.
I'm a Stars fan, just happy to be made the playoffs. Don't really care about anything else.
I think we really have the ideal balance of happy to sad on this podcast because we have me, who's really happy, Terry, who's just happy to be here, Aisha, who's constantly depressed about her team, Cassie, who's abysmally sad, and then the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I'm just okay with my team. It's okay. All right, well, scoring update right now. We have the Penguins up 2-0 at the start of the third, and the Kings and Ducks will get going here in the next hour or so. Aisha, do you want to kick us off with the first topic tonight?
All right, the first topic tonight is the Montreal and Boston series, where there's more off-ice action than on-ice. So where do I start about the off-ice action? Should I start with Darian's comments about the fact that the refs are on Boston's side? Last time I checked on the stats that the Montreal have had double power play time than we have. They have gotten so much more on their side than us, including Game 2 when they had the ref announce the bench minor for Claude for complaining about one of the calls. Just saying. And then there's the whole back and forthness between one beat writer of the Montreal have saying how we're complaining more about the media versus them complaining about it. And it's just back and forth. It's really obnoxious. Kind of want this to be over, partly for that.
Regardless, the Habs complaining about the Bruins and the Bruins complaining about the Habs is like the pot calling the kettle black, and so the kettle responding that the pot is blacker. It's amazing.
That's racist.
Another topic of this year.
Also,
this is really fun to watch on the ice. Like, both games have been exciting, but dear God, is it annoying off the ice. Like, I want to just mute all of the off-ice chatter and just pay attention to the game. We're at the point where we're at complaining inception. We're complaining about complaining.
but the thing is, okay, back onto the whole racism thing. If you were to look up tweets specifically saying "subbun" and the N-word, I think that says more about the person who's searching for it than the people who are tweeting it. Because if your first reaction after he scores a goal is to look up his tweets about that, how's that supposed to help?
I think it is kind of like going to the Deep South and being like, "Oh, there's a KKK group here." No shit. Racist people exist. We should stop being surprised about that. I'm glad that Cam Neely and the Bruins put out a statement saying, we don't talk, this isn't what our team thinks. We don't agree with this stance. But that should really be the end of it. Like,
well, I disagree with you guys.
There are people that know that when they tweet something racist about Saban, that reporters are going to retweet it. People are going to start talking about it. They like to poke the bear.
I think the funniest part of the whole thing is his brother is in the Bruins system.
And we have Ingla. Iggy is half black, for Christ's sake.
Well, but it was the whole thing that really caught me and thought it was funny is they were calling, the comments directed at PK, but Malcolm, his brother, is in the system.
But I actually disagree with you guys.
It's because people want to get a rise out of everyone else, and they know that making racist comments toward PK is going to do that, and it does every single time.
Okay, but here's the thing. I think that although now people may be doing it to get a rise out of writers and hockey fandom, whatever, originally that was not why it was happening. It was happening as a genuine reaction from hockey fans. And that needs attention. It's not something where the Bruins can just release a statement and PK can say it doesn't reflect on Boston and we can move on. that there needs to be soul searching about the amount of racism in hockey, and if this is one way we can get at it, then I think it's fine that there's a lot of ink spilled on this. I think it's actually really important.
Yeah, but you also have to realize that people who are searching for these tweets on purpose just for page views and shit stirring should not.
It's reporters doing their job, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
know.
I don't like that I think we pay too much attention to it, but look at us, we're talking about it. We pay too much attention to it, but at the same time, the reporters are going to write about it because, hey, everyone reads it. That's a reporter's job.
But it's also important. Like, people write things that everyone reads about, like, fucking Danny Briere cheating on his wife. That's shitty journalism. Writing about racism in a fan base, especially some of the smart takes that people are doing on it, is genuinely a question of soul searching.
I guess, but you also have to say the fact that, like, one of the beat writers for Boston was like, oh, hey, if you look up Bruins player name and the F word, which is the derogatory homosexual slur, that, oh, now the Habs fans are homophobes, trying to, like, poke fun at the fact that, oh, Bruins fans are racist for the N-word.
I mean, fans are homophobic, and that is also a topic that we should be discussing and considering.
Yeah. But I feel, yeah.
I mean, I agree that it needs to be, like, we need to point it out and say, listen, this isn't acceptable, but I don't think you don't have to continue to beat a dead horse. We know there are racist people. I guess it's the people who go on and on about how shocked they are that happens. I don't know what world they live in and if they never noticed racism, but it's not, like, completely uncommon.
That's fair.
And can we just, back off the ice issues, let's talk about on the ice issues, like Tuukka versus Price. Now, Price had pretty much almost flawless stats during the first round, thanks to the lack of offense from Detroit. But now his numbers are slipping and going back to normalcy. And in Game 2, Price went from 1.00 in the first period of first goals allowed, and then his percent savage, and then slowly went decreasing throughout the game until third period his save percentage was 51%.
Ouch.
I mean, goaltending is full of randomness. It's probably the position in hockey that is the most influenced by random chance.
Yeah,
and other players, like, on their own team.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
but
definitely true.
The thing is, the fact that the Habs were playing like they did not want to lose the third period, instead of actually supporting Price by actually scoring goals, knowing fully well how Boston plays in the third period, they let him out to dry. I don't think he can carry the team throughout the series. Unless they do something.
I think that the Habs are playing like they're kind of like scratching by, and the Bruins are playing like they're just not quite clicking, and then when they do, they run over them. I think that's going to be a problem for Montreal. Montreal needs to play better. You know, they're taking advantage of power plays, and if Boston would stop letting Montreal get under their skin,
that's never going to happen.
The way that Boston
that would erase any advantage Montreal has, and I think Boston would take complete control.
The way that Boston is playing right now reminds me of the way that Boston was playing, and Corey, you might have a comment on this, reminds me of the way that Boston was playing in round 1 last year against the Leafs. And I think if they, start clicking, if they turn it on, then I think Montreal's in real trouble.
We just need to pretend that every game is the third period.
I think the Montreal might catch a break with Rask just now having a baby. His wife having it, and
oh yeah, he's gonna score a goal now.
Well, more or less, I'm saying missing a game. If he has to miss a game because of it, and Chad Johnson goes in.
Is he going to miss a game?
No,
I don't know.
Not going to.
No, he's not missing a game. The baby happened yesterday.
Okay, I wasn't sure if he was.
It was actually supposed to be due on Friday, so Chad Johnson was ready to start the Friday game, but then it turned out, no, not Friday game, sorry, Thursday game, but yeah. Chad Johnson still has good numbers against the Habs, mind you. It's not like it's a huge disadvantage.
And also, but it's not in the playoffs, so that would be a little different. But I'm glad Rask's baby was born, so we avoided the shitstorm debate of should he miss a game, shouldn't he?
I think, and it's his first, and I my whole thought process on it is that he should miss a game if he had to.
Oh, I agree.
I
That
would
he
not
should?
be
He
mad.
should?
Well, I'm
What?
just saying.
Do you think it's right to the rest of his team to do that, though? Like, I know it's a personal matter, but when you're the best player on your team, and they're counting on you in the playoffs against your most heated rival.
I mean, if you want to ask me, that's like saying, like, who do you put first, your family or your team? I'm going to go with the family. Like,
Yeah, to be fair, I think that some things are more important than hockey.
Well, I guess I'm the only one who would agree differently.
I don't think
And I'm
anyone.
not a real family person, so.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone would be mad at him for missing a game for family because Soderbergh also missed a game for his baby, and no one really made a big fuss over that.
I think it's different, though, when you have an on-ice player as opposed to a goalie.
Yeah.
I guess, but right now at this point that we have enough trust in Chad Johnson that we're not afraid of Rask missing a game.
Yeah. I mean, I would totally agree with him missing it, but I think people would be pissed.
There's
I
always
guess
going to be somebody.
if we lost, then yes, but if we won, no one would care.
Yeah, there's always going to be somebody, if that situation comes up, that's going to be pissed off if they miss a game or whatever. But I think that the birth of your child, especially your first one, is one of those memorable moments that you should be there for. So that's my thoughts on it.
Well,
If anyone agrees or disagrees with us,
Yeah.
All right, so next series is
Chicago, Minnesota.
yeah,
Minnesota.
the
Yeah.
non-hockey state.
Let's not go there. Come on. So I won't call it the hot take on this series. The obvious take on this series is that Chicago's up 2-0, and it hasn't been particularly close. Chicago is murdering the Wild at 57%, 5 versus 5 close shot percentage, which means that when the score is within 2 goals, Chicago is taking 57% of the shots on ice. That's a really high percentage. And it basically just reflects that also, with the exception of the second period in the first game, Chicago's dominating percentage. The question for Minnesota, besides the constant rotating wheel of goalies that they have, is just their defense is getting walked. Jonas Brodin has been terrible. Stoner's not been very good. Foster's not been very good. Suter looks almost at times like he's just wiped, which, to be fair, he probably is because he plays all the time. But I've got this series over pretty soon.
If the Wild cannot win at home, it's done. Pominville's been pretty much non-existent. Molson's been just dead on his feet. It's not looking good, and being outplayed. And in order for them to win any series, they have to steal one on the road because they're a terrible road team. If they can't do it, if they can't win at home, it's done. There's nothing they can do.
I mean, it looks like an absolute slaughter. Chicago seems in control probably 97% of the game. They seem like they're directing it. Even when Minnesota has the puck, they don't seem like they can really generate a whole lot.
I'm going to disagree with you on that because I thought Minnesota did pretty well in the first game. They just didn't capitalize like Chicago did. And in the second game, Chicago had 25 blocked shots. So
That's what I'm saying.
The shots on goal have been about even in this series. It's just been Chicago's been scoring and Minnesota hasn't.
I don't think Minnesota's been playing poorly. I just think they're not as good as Chicago, and I think it shows. They can't, but with all the blocked shots, it seems like Minnesota, they can't break through to get any quality shots. Chicago is blocking all of them. I think the differences between the two teams are becoming apparent.
I think that Chicago's defense is just above and beyond Minnesota's. I really do think Minnesota played well game one, but the defense is a problem because if you can stop 2 of those 4 goals, not including the empty netter, it's a 2-2 game and you go to overtime, right, where Chicago's been really bad this year. But it's just not there. And I know Brodin's in his sophomore season only, but he's been noticeably bad.
But he's young. You can't rely on a guy like that to come out and play against the defending champions.
The problem is that they are.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with Cassie. If they can't I think you can expect to see a momentum change when you're playing back home. But I think that unless they can win them, well, I mean, obviously because I'm before games, but they can't win at home. They have no chance.
Well, I mean, they're by definition done if they can't win at home because
Yeah.
they'll get swept. But one thing about the Wild being at home is that the Avs are a really young team, and we're at times pretty intimidated, I think, by the Wild building. Excel's been amazing. Chicago's probably not gonna be so intimidated by the XL, so the building factor might be a little bit diminished.
This
But-
is true.
When is Hilza going to be charged with murder?
Because he's killing the Wild.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hopefully, not until after the playoffs.
I will
Okay.
give you, Chicago has done a really good job of neutralizing Parise so far, because Parise had a great first round, and he's been totally absent in 2 games so far, pretty much.
All right, Anaheim and LA. First playoff meeting since Anaheim has been in existence.
It's been exciting so far. 1 game, overtime. Obviously, I'm biased here, but I mean, as far as games go, that first game, the ending especially, was pretty much as exciting as it's gotten in the playoffs so far. And I think that when you see Gaborik doing what he's been doing, you realize how good of a move it was to get him when so many people criticized getting him instead of Vanek or Molson at the deadline. He's worked really well with Kopitar so far.
Kopitar's amazing, also. It just bears saying. He's been incredible.
I can see the Kings winning this. You know, if Kopitar acts like the Jesus that he is, and Quick plays like a god, I mean, I just feel like Kings have like a playoff mode that they like go and like they had all this scoring drought, and then all of a sudden after 3 games down to the Sharks, they go into like this playoff mode thing where they turn into almost like a different team. So,
Yeah, like I thought game 1, like the first part of it looked good, looked really close, and then it's kind of like the Kings woke up and dear God, just wouldn't stop with it. It was impressive to watch. And I mean, Anaheim has cracks. Dallas took them to 6 games, very nearly took them to 7, and we were the 8th seed. Definitely don't think they're unbeatable. And I'm rooting for LA because I really don't want Anaheim to advance.
Is that just because they took out Dallas?
Well,
Okay.
of the Pacific teams, Anaheim is above the Kings on my hate list, but I don't want to be reminded of Game 6 of the Dallas-Anaheim series again and again and again. So, like, I literally mute the commentary whenever they bring it up. So, if LA can just move on and we can forget about that, I'd be happy.
I'm curious, with Chicago in the driver's seat in their series right now, if Ari, I know that you guys beat the Kings last year, but is there anybody in particular that you don't want to see? Would you rather see the Ducks or Kings in the next round?
I'd rather see the Ducks. I think that the Ducks are the weaker team. But I will say this about the Kings-Ducks series. The Kings-Ducks series is about which team is stronger, whereas the New York versus Pittsburgh series is about which team is weaker. And so I greatly prefer the LA-Anaheim series, but I would definitely prefer to see Anaheim. Quick, you never know when he can steal a series. Kopitar matches up great, I think, against the Blackhawks. But I would still pick the Blackhawks to win over either team.
Well, with home ice, yeah, I think you would have to, especially since they're defending champions. One thing that has been bothering me tonight is that we have Willie Mitchell and Robin Regier out on defense for us, so we're probably going to be starting Jeff Schultz.
Oh.
I know we are. Jeff Schultz has traditionally been a pylon on defense with Washington and in the NHL. He's played great in our minor league this year, but this is the first time he's actually going to play with the team all season. So the Ducks are going to try to exploit that the best that they can, and that's going to be a little bit scary because they have the matchup advantage. This is a home team tonight.
Should we stick around Anaheim for another minute, or should we move on to New York?
I'm okay with moving on to New York.
Move on to New York.
All right, so let's just get it out of the way. Everyone talk about Fleury now.
I think Fleury has not done the thing yet. He had that one moment in the Blue Jackets series, which not every goalie is going to be perfect, and he's not a godlike goalie, and that's what people are expecting from him. I think he's been solid so far in the playoffs. So
I feel bad for Fleury. I've always liked Fleury. I lived in Western Pennsylvania when he was drafted, and for the first 4 years of his career. But I feel like Pens fans want him to be like one of the all-time greats, and then whenever he doesn't achieve that, they flip out. Like, this is the goalie you have. He's not terrible. His, looking through his career save percentage, in this year was 91.5, 91.6 last year. This is regular season. 91.13 the year before. Those aren't bad. Like, you have to. This is what you have, and every time he makes a mistake, like he did in the Columbus game, they all want to basically throw him under the bus, and he's the only reason they lose a game, ignoring the fact that there are other things wrong. And this year so far, he's been great. He's been good, not great. His save percentage in the playoffs is 91.4. That's not bad.
I mean, very much, Terry, to your point, about 3 minutes ago in the New York game, the Penguins defense basically just let the Rangers have a NHL 94 style wraparound. Fleury stopped it, but the Penguins cannot do that. Their defense has been pretty weak at times.
And I think there's a coaching problem that he can't adjust to other teams as well as he should be able to. But that's, a different topic. I just don't think the problem with the Pens right now is Fleury.
I also think that...
Well, he has almost... I mean, he's 5 minutes away from his second consecutive shutout, so...
Ooh, you're going to get murdered if Pens fans...
You're going to get killed.
And for the record, yeah, in second games of the back-to-back playoff game, Fleury is 1-2, Lundqvist is 3-0. So there's 5 more minutes to go to see if this happens.
I think you're all really cursing it. You need to stop talking about it.
I did not say the S word.
I didn't either.
While we're on the topic of goaltending, we should talk about scoring. The Rangers' top sort of high-end scoring is just not getting it done from this playoff. They've got, almost nothing from St. Louis. This series, they have nothing from St. Louis. They're not getting anything from Richardson. They're not getting anything from Nash. Is that going to be the story of the series at the end of the day?
Probably. If they can't score, they can't win.
If they lose the series, absolutely.
Because New York is blessed with Lundqvist. And
blessed is the right word because he's a literal god. He's so pretty.
Yeah. But if they can't score, if you can't score, you can't win. And if they lose the series because they can't score, that's going to be the topic. And I would really hope they don't blow up their team to fix it, but that could be the case.
Can I just say that Sidney Crosby has scored this game?
Yes.
And I'm so happy, so we can stop pretending that he has not been productive this playoffs, as if the only thing a player can do is score goals, and nothing else matters.
On that point, sorry, go ahead.
I just figured it was going to be like the Olympics, where all of a sudden people, Crosby's not doing anything, and then all of a sudden, bam. Right when, right at the end, particularly in Vancouver. I mean, it's the same thing. So I actually said tonight in the game through, I was like, it's going to happen. Maybe not tonight, but it's going to happen. It was inevitable. But then people were like, well, what about Nash? So
we've already
Nash
talked
still
about
hasn't scored.
Yeah. the other story besides the Pens defense is the Rangers defense, which is that Crosby and Malkin were just both all over the ice yesterday. The McDonough pairing was so bad on Crosby, they had to be replaced with the Stahl-Strawman pairing, who were better on Crosby, but still, he had just a ridiculous number. He had 10 shot attempts and 6 shots on goal. So you could also blame the series on the Rangers defense. Basically, the only person who's blameless is Henrik Lundqvist.
Yeah, Lundqvist had great saves yesterday.
Yeah, he was good.
I mean, dear God, how many saves could you expect your goalie to make when you just leave him hanging out there? God
Also,
or not.
tonight, the 2 goals that he's given up were breakaways. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hardly been on Lundqvist.
I just don't want to see sad Lundqvist again, like at the end of the gold medal game. Where he just
sad one.
It's just like, killed
The
me.
Rangers power play, have they had any more? Are we still at 0-33?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oof.
You cannot win in the playoffs with a power play that never scores.
Am I the only one who was kind of shocked that they went second place in the Metro Division?
Not
Yeah.
really.
Zuccarello has been such a boon for that team, but he's not going to get done in the playoffs either. They just haven't found their scoring at all. I've got 2 more notes about New York, one of which is the schedule has just been unforgivable for this series. You can't, and for New York in the previous series too. They've had 2 back-to-backs so far, which you just can't have in the playoffs.
But the Pens are having back-to-back too, so I mean, it's not like...
Yeah, it's both teams getting the same schedule.
Yeah, but I think the schedule in this year just wasn't good for the playoffs.
Well, part of that is also on Madison Square Garden. I mean, it's the busiest venue pretty much besides maybe Staples Center in LA, so you have to counter for all the other activities that go on there.
This is a fair point.
Yeah. All right, do we want to take some questions now?
Hold on, one more note. Last note is that Mario Lemieux is also growing a playoff beard, and his playoff beard is pretty nice, I will say. If you guys haven't seen a picture of it, I recommend it.
They just showed him on the game, and he looked really pissed. Like, crossed his arms, and then someone made a joke, and he started laughing. I don't know what he's not happy about, but he looked upset.
He always looks pissed. He looked pissed when he had 5 goals in 5 games. He just has bitchy resting face.
And my sister loved that face of his.
Yeah.
So I know she's probably happy.
Hot take, Ari said it first. Mario Lemieux has bitchy resting face.
Okay.
All right, now let's take some questions.
Oh, Fleury just had an awesome save. Okay, questions.
We have a lot of questions on Twitter.
All right, let's start with this one.
All right. Let's go all the way down. We got so many. I got to scroll. Hold on a second.
Well, while you're looking for one, we have one question from Brent, which is, who's a bigger traitor, Darth Vader to the Force or LA Kings Dave to Beth R. Hockey? And I'm going to go ahead and say that I think Darth Vader was the bigger traitor, but it's a close call.
Hey.
Dave, do you have any children and have you cut off their arms?
If you enjoy doing what we're doing here, then, you know, the only way to get better at podcasting is to do more podcasts.
Oh, so you're using our hockey as a training ground for the other one.
No, it's just an overall level of quality. The better you want to get at something, the more you do it. So.
All right, what else you got for us?
All right, next question.
Let's see.
Oh my God, they're on fire play too.
Tell us your high school nickname. Nando is asking that. But that's not really a hockey question.
I didn't have any high school nicknames because my name is Ari, and it's pretty hard to nickname. So if you guys want to generate some nicknames for me, I enjoy that.
All right, I think that would be a good Twitter task. People tweet.
Oh God.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll say the best 3 nicknames on the next podcast if you guys come up with good nicknames for me.
Dave Beardbag is asking.
My nickname's changed every year. The most common is TK, which are my initials because my friends are super creative. still called TK by all my teammates. They almost never call me Terry.
My nickname is Cassie, which is actually short for Cassandra. So that's so creative.
Terry,
Terry,
TK is also Tyler Kennedy's nickname, so you have that in common with Tyler Kennedy.
I
My
guess
nickname was my initials as well. My initials are DAG, so everyone just called me Dag.
mine are CIL, so that's why it was kill. Roadkill.
Nice.
I wasn't real popular.
Well, Dave Beardbag is asking, who is more valuable to their team, Crosby or Giroux?
Crosby.
I think Crosby.
I mean, people circle jerk him a lot, but the Penguins had an injury list that was miles long, and he held that team together.
This year, Crosby's been more valuable to his team, but overall, I think that Giroux is more valuable maybe to the Flyers than Crosby is to the Penguins. But I think Crosby's definitely the better player.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, because on the one hand, Crosby's the better player, but he's also on a team with tons of really, really good players.
Yeah, but
I
a
think-
lot of them were injured.
Yeah, that's true. I think for the Flyers, they're an overall team. God, that's a good question. That's a really. The one thing I will say without the Pens is I feel like Crosby is a pretty good leader for them. So I feel like without him, they're more lost than maybe the Flyers would be without Giroux. But I think that's kind of a toss-up.
I think between the two teams, they're about equal, but this season, Crosby's been more valuable just because of the injuries.
Shut out.
Put your
That
pitch
happens.
away. Dave did not do Flurry.
Wait,
You
what
don't have
happened?
to die. You don't have to die, Dave.
Oh,
Fleury
because
got
shut
out.
out?
Yeah.
Well,
It's
with
okay.
that shutout, the Pittsburgh now takes a 2-1 lead and regains the advantage they lost when they lost on home ice. So it's anyone's series now.
Yep.
All right. Do we have another question before we move on?
Dave Blinson is asking me, how does it feel to be an honorary female?
Good.
Thanks, Dave. I'm comfortable with my sexuality. I'm okay with it.
I think you should feel honored, Dave.
I am honored.
I mean, we're not there. I mean, we're there in spirit, so you can feel, pretty good about yourself.
Okay, so let's talk about the scheduling matrix. This year was a new scheduling matrix where everyone played in every arena. And I bring this up because Jack Edwards, who, if you don't know, is one of the announcers for Boston, has talked about this several times that I've heard, that he doesn't like it because you lose rivalry games. For instance, there weren't as many Habs Bruins games because they played teams like Dallas and LA and San Jose. So, opinions? Do you like it? Do you not like it?
Well,
I
I
love
love it. As a West Coast fan, it's great because for years now, we've only been able to play the East Coast teams once a year. And generally, we end up having to play on the East Coast because the travel is better. So we would just go and play on all the East Coast, and we never get to see the Stars. And this is the first year since '09 that we've gotten to see Crosby and Ovechkin here in LA. So I think it's better for the league to have those marquee players going to each arena, and it's just better overall for the game.
Yeah, I agree with you. As somebody who's a Stars fan, I lived in Pennsylvania for 12 years. I lived in the middle of, within reasonable driving distance of both New York teams, New Jersey, DC, Philly, and Pittsburgh. And there were years where I did not get to see the Stars play because they didn't visit any of them. That's absurd. And the NHL, they lost my money those years because I will generally go whenever the Stars are in spitting distance. And I also think you miss, like you said, Dave, you miss out on the marquee names. And those marquee names, somebody might not really be a hockey fan, but they've heard of Crosby and they've heard of Ovechkin. So, hey, they're in town. Might as well go see what it's all about.
I like it as a displaced fan. And I've always been a displaced fan, unfortunately. I get, with the teams, the way it's set up now, I have a chance to actually go see my team play live at least once a year, where if it wasn't like that, I would never be able to see them live. And the way it's set up now is every team has, every fan has the ability to see every team, and allows them to become more immersed in the sport itself and become better knowledgeable.
Yeah.
One concern that a lot of people have about the format is rivalry, and thinking that this will negatively impact rivalries. But I actually, although a little confused about it at first, think the new playoff format gives teams a chance to build stronger and better rivalries, because you're going to build a better rivalry in the playoffs than you are in the regular season anyways,
Yep.
with the exception of Philly Pittsburgh, which is just perfect as it is. So I think that concern isn't so much for me. I also really like the new schedule.
Yeah, I mean, and I think rivalry games are good, and they're good, but I think they're better for fans who are already fans.
Yeah.
I think they necessarily grow the sport as much.
I mean, it depends on how, historical it is. As somebody who's just getting into the sport and they're watching a team, if the rivalry is growing as they're watching, it's kind of cool, but you throw somebody in who's not a hockey fan at all and tell them, hey, look, here's Boston, Montreal, great rivalry, have fun. They might not care for it too much.
Right, because they don't know the backstory, they don't know the history.
Yep.
Okay. Does anyone think that it's bad?
Nope.
I don't think so.
All right.
I mean,
Well,
there's already 81 games, and like I said, I mean, you meet your division people at least. There's 4 games, and then conference 3 times, and then the whole league too. So I mean, there usually at least one game one team that you meet 5 times or so. Is that usually how it does?
There could be. Also, I think another thing to point out is that with the new playoff system, you have these divisional playoffs instead of conference-type playoffs that you had the last few years. So now, even though we played the Sharks 5 times this season or whatever, we just ended up playing them 7 more times in the first round. Now we're going to play the Ducks at least 4 more in the playoffs. So the divisional playoffs help a lot, too, to build those rivalries that maybe a couple extra games during the regular season wouldn't have, because it's more intense.
And as a displaced Bruins fan, I love being able to watch the Bruins for pretty much $15 twice a year.
Mine aren't that cheap. I don't get that lucky.
Oh, please, talk to me. And Corey, I guess.
No, I get 25.
Oh, you can all go fuck yourselves.
Sorry,
No,
I'm sorry.
I drive back home to my parents to go to Hurricanes games all the time.
I live in Kentucky. All you people are complaining about having to pay to go to games. I have to travel minimum 3 hours.
Well, I mean, it's
My
4.5 hours
parking-
for me to get home.
Yeah, my
Granted,
travel's
parking is
$4.50.
$5 for tickets on the glass, but still, I have to travel 3 hours each way.
My parking is usually more than my ticket cost.
Yeah, mine is. It's a 4.5 hour drive, and I have to go to a hotel, and I'm paying $40, $50 a ticket. It's not exactly as cheap as it was when I lived in Tampa.
Well, we covered that pretty thoroughly. Hot take that we all agree with each other. So should we do a little bit more Q&A and then move on to World?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Dave, you got some questions for us?
Well, Austin had some questions, so he's asking me to answer those questions. And the King scored already. Sweet.
Nice.
Holy crap, really?
Yay! Woohoo!
Marion Gabrick again.
Jeez.
I just want the
Nice.
Kings to win because then my uncle will give me the same guy.
It's a
He
good
lives
thing
in
if
Orange
the
County,
Kings-
so.
If the Kings win, then Columbus gets that pick, right? So, go Kings, I guess. No, go Anaheim. You're easier to play. Anyways, question.
Well, speaking of the LA, Austin asked, LA has momentum right now. That with them being notorious for surging in the playoffs, what's chances of winning the cup?
Zippo.
Well, obviously with the way they're playing, I think the chances are good, but I've said before, I think if we don't get out of this series quickly, in like 5 games, I don't really like our chances against Chicago because last year we fought 2 hard series and then faced Chicago and we were beat up and we lost to them pretty badly. So Chicago has been our kryptonite the last couple years, and if we can't match up with them 100% to 100% when they have home ice, I think that we won't get out of that. But obviously, I think we're one of the top 4 teams right now as far as the way that we're playing.
I will say,
So I think they're pretty good.
I don't believe in momentum between playoff games. I think it exists in games, but outside of games, I don't believe in it. That said, I definitely think that LA has a decent chance against Chicago. I'd still pick Chicago to win the series.
Yeah, as of right now, I would too. Just because we've struggled so badly to beat them the last couple of years, just regular season and playoffs.
I think for the first couple games of the St. Louis series, Chicago didn't look like they had that spark that they had last year. They found it, and I feel like any team they play is in trouble, including LA. Playoff LA or not.
Yeah. Dave Beardbag says, pick one player in the NHL to build a team around.
I pick Shea Weber.
What?
I know. I'm saying this partly to generate controversy, but also partly because the hardest thing to get is elite defense.
This is true.
I would probably say Tuukka Rask. If you build a defense around him, you're pretty much set.
Yeah.
Goaltending is so inconsistent.
If you asked me 5 years ago, I'd say Ryan Miller, but we tried that and it didn't work. But any elite goaltender is always a good start. Build from the goaltender up. Because it's hard to find defensemen. It's really hard to find an elite goaltender. You can find scoring easier.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think it's harder to build. If you're going to build from scoring, then I think you need a pair as opposed to just one guy. Like, if you look at, like, Taves and Kane, pairings work well.
Or Malkin and Crosby.
I don't think in hockey, because you have line changes so often, you can build around just one player either. You look at a guy like John Tavares, one of the best players in the league. He can't do it all. Rick Nash could never do it all in Columbus.
Right.
You know, there's just a lot of examples of that because hockey is such a 4-line kind of game. Whereas, say, in like basketball, you could build around a Kevin Durant or LeBron James or something like that. It's easier to do. And in football, if you have a good quarterback like a Peyton Manning, then you can build around like that. But it's too hard to do that with just one player in hockey.
I feel like the Hurricanes should have been able to really do it with Eric Stahl, but I feel like they just haven't. And I don't. There's so many things issue with that. I'm just saying because I've watched him since he came there when I was in high school, and I just watched him over the years. And I don't know.
I'm good with, I don't know, if I had to pick one player, I'd probably go with, like, you know, Crosby's amazing, but at this point, I'd want somebody, if I'm just starting to build a team that takes a couple years, I'd want somebody young. I'd want somebody just drafted in the past year or two.
Dwayne.
But at this point, I'm happy with how Dallas is going about their rebuilding with Ben. I mean, he's pretty much the centerpiece of it right now.
I mean, it's pretty much going to happen with McDavid, so that should be interesting to watch. Unless he goes to Edmonton.
That's going to be a fun race to the bottom to get him.
Edmonton's already winning, apparently.
No, dibs.
So I'll defend the defenseman pick for a minute. I think that goaltending is so inconsistent, and also, although an elite goaltender can save a season or a series for you, any goaltender can have a bad year. And if your goaltender has a bad year and they're the centerpiece of your team, you're fucking screwed. On the other hand, you can get pretty decent goaltending in the NHL right now for not that much. You know, James Reimer is going to go for what? Maybe a third-round pick? Ryan Miller went for a lot, but Buffalo was lucky to get that much for him. Roberto Luongo went for very, very little. Of course, the contract issue was there. I think that if you're building a team, you can get a goaltender, but you can't just acquire Duncan Keith or Shea Weber or Ryan Suter. That's a much harder piece to get. So I would start from the defense. A really great defense can make any goalie look good, aka Reed Phoenix. And from there, you acquire some depth scoring, and you're looking like a contender.
All right. Any other questions?
Josh asked, who do we think our Conn Smythe's favorites are so far? I think the obvious for me would be Kopitar, but I think we've already gone over that. I spoke about that in the last podcast yesterday. I don't know who you guys have.
I really hate trying to make like Conn Smythe predictions still this early in the playoffs, but Kopitar has definitely been standing out. I guess in the East, it might go to Crosby or Fleury. If Fleury can keep up how he's playing, I could see him getting it.
I could also see it going to maybe Chara.
Yeah.
On the Bruins. I don't know. Who do you guys think would be?
I would actually disagree with Chara getting the Conn Smythe.
Yeah.
I see more of Bergeron or Rask getting it over Chara.
Fair enough.
Just for the fact that Bergeron has been literally all over the ice the whole series, past two series.
I have a really out there opinion because I don't see them winning against Boston. But if the Habs did move on to the final round, I feel like Bryce would have, and that's only because I feel like he's so important to the team. I mean, there's other people on the Habs team as well, but I feel like throughout the season and everything, I think he's really just carried the team.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with predicting Conn Smythe so early is it's easier to get a good idea when we have like 4 teams left.
Yeah.
But if the Habs go on, I can see Price getting it because he's carrying them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he has all season. I think I'm a little bit surprised. I didn't expect them to completely sweep Tampa Bay. I expected them to win. The defense has been so iffy throughout the season, so I was really kind of pleasantly surprised with the way they have been playing. But there were so many times I've watched a lot of Habs games where I just felt bad for Price. So
Price for Habs if they make the finals.
But I don't think they will.
Crosby or Fleury for Pittsburgh. Either Bergeron or Rask for Bruins. For Chicago, I could see Hoza or Crawford.
I'd
or
love
Kane.
to see Hoza get it, but probably
Or Kane.
not.
It's probably going to go to Kane. And then for LA, whatever. I'm not going to
Raccoon Jesus.
Raccoon Jesus.
Kopitar. Sound it out.
Are we really going to start this year?
No.
Anyways, one more question. Maybe we could do Josh's other question.
Do you have somebody with a question? You said?
Yeah, Josh asked us what we thought about Florida possibly trading the first round pick.
I don't. Why? I mean, what? You better be getting something good.
Yeah, like Shea Weber.
I'm okay with it if it's traded to us. I'm just saying, because we do have a few more people that we could unload that might command that first round pick, possibly, but I think Florida would be stupid to get rid of it. That's it.
I think unless you can trade for a first round pick next year in some capacity, because next year's draft is supposed to be significantly deeper than this year's. So if you could maybe make a move to do that where you think you'd still end up with a decent and then something else on top of it. But if that's not the case, then I would just take Ekblad because he's the best defensive prospect, and that's what they need.
Yeah.
And it will make Yale happy.
Yeah.
I will say this, which is the last one of the last times we saw someone trade a first overall pick was the Quebec Nordiques dealing with the Lindros situation. And what they got in exchange for Lindros was the foundation of, 2 Stanley Cup runs in Colorado. So it's possible that the return they could get would be, they need so much that the
But
return they could
Lindros
get.
was supposed to be like a once-in-a-generation kind of player. You're not going to get that kind of return for anybody in this draft. You would only maybe get it from McDavid next year.
Yeah, it's Ekblad. He's a D-man, so it's not like everyone can give up everything for a D-man, especially an 18-year-old D-man.
And Mackenzie, and I really think highly of his opinion, said that he's probably not going to be as great as some other defensemen. It's not a franchise defenseman coming out of this draft.
Oh, that's a bad news situation.
He's going to be top 4, but he's not going to be like a centerpiece defenseman that you can build around. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
He's good. He's just not good enough.
We have a question from the Q&A from Casey.
Okay.
It says, which country is more likely to recover from their Olympic flop at the World Championships, Czech Republic or Slovakia? I think based on what I've heard coming from European leagues, the Czech Republic will be able to rebound. They have a stronger youth program right now than Slovakia does. I know I've heard Chara and Hossa say before that the training and the youth programs in Slovakia just haven't been as strong in the last 10 years as they were when they were coming up. So unless the management has been changing and getting better there, then I would think Czech Republic's still going to be the stronger team. They also have a stronger professional league there, and with Prague making the KHL finals there, being the first non-Russian team, you get even more exposure and stronger fan bases there that'll support hockey more.
I think the Czech will also do better. Hurdle will probably make a huge splash and help out a lot. He wasn't in the Olympics because of the injury, but he will be playing at Worlds, so that could make a difference.
So what do you guys think? Do you guys like the players going to play in Worlds? Would you rather them stay home?
I have no problem with them playing.
I think
unless you're hurt already, or unless your team has a reason to keep you here for something, then I don't think it's worth it. And I think that it's good to play more. The more you play, the better you get. And it's something where it's a pride factor, too. These guys like to play hockey. They like to play for their country. I don't see why you would try to deny them that unless you think it's going to complicate them. Maybe.
I'm somewhat hypocritical on this because I want the NHL to stay in the Olympics. But with the Worlds, I feel like the Olympics do so much more for hockey in that everyone watches them as opposed to the Worlds where people who are already hockey fans watch them. And I'm at the point where I just don't want my players to get hurt for next season. I'm not upset that if they go, I'm not gonna be like, oh, what a bastard, he went to play in Worlds. But I prefer that they choose not to. I mean, I don't think the Stars have that many. Like Tim Thomas is playing for the U.S. I really couldn't care less about that. But, well, sorry, I'm not
the Sabres
I don't even think he's gonna
have
be
4 players going. Sabres have 4 and a prospect, and I mean, I really hope that Hodgson doesn't get injured or Myers, but should it happen, I think it's a risk they have to take and they choose. If we say, if we stop sending people out, based on a risk of injury, that means we're probably going to have to stop sending them to the Olympics. And I don't think we should stop them, but that's me.
Here's the thing. I didn't even know there were Worlds that NHL players went to until I was looking on the NHL rosters, like individual player profiles, and it was listed there in their stats. So, that was a while ago. So don't they use it for choosing standings in the Olympics?
Yes, they use it for seeding in the Olympics.
Okay. Well, it's important.
Well, it's not really important this year, right?
No, the standings go back like 8 years or something like that.
It's
Oh,
very
wow.
it's very important for especially smaller countries. I mean, the big 6 countries will almost always have a spot just because they beat up all the smaller teams, but it definitely matters a lot for the Group B and C kind of player or teams that are
Like
competing because
Latvia.
there's more than one World Championship tournament. So you have the major one with the U.S. and Canada and Russia like that, which is the one that starts this week. But you have the other smaller ones with like Austria or Slovenia or those other smaller countries, and they are already competing and they've already done their championships the last couple weeks and last month. So that definitely matters for those guys.
Yeah. And I think the world's it brings hockey to the smaller countries. Like if you look at Latvia, they're a very small country. They just now made it into the Olympics after I don't know if they've ever been before, but they were able to get to that point through Worlds. So
Yeah, for sure. Same thing. I mean, Belarus is another one.
Japan for
Kazakhstan
women.
did not make the Olympics this year, but they did 4 years ago, I believe. So that's one of those things where they're constantly competing to get to that point.
So
Okay. I think we have a little bit of time left. Do we want to take more questions, or is there anything else?
The Kings have 3 shots on goal. I'm
Wait.
putting that out there.
How many does Anaheim have?
the Ducks scored.
Ugh.
Corey Perry scored.
Oh.
The Kings defense were just Muzzin was out of position on that one. You got to get in front of Perry.
And that was also on a 4-on-3. My stream just got there.
Yeah, wide open net because Quick was facing Maroon. So that's too bad for LA, I guess. If we have more questions, let's take them, and then let's wrap up.
Well, they
Right.
scored on a 4-on-3, so.
Yeah,
Don't give those up. Don't do that. Stop doing that. That's
Like
my
Dave-
professional advice.
Like Dave can control the defense right now.
Yeah, God damn it, True Daddy. With our
Okay.
defense already hurting as much as they are, we don't need our best defenseman to take a stupid penalty in our zone.
Any questions?
Yeah, I'm sure we have to have more questions, right?
Well, can we talk about the newly announced awards too? Like, there's been, I think, 2 announced nominees so far for different awards.
What are they?
I think one was the
Ted Lindsay, I saw.
the Ted Lindsay and the NHL Foundation player or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Frankly, I don't care about either of those. The Ted Lindsay, we talked about the Hart. They're the same nominees.
Yeah.
No, I personally think a lot of the players respect the Lindsay more because the Hart Trophy is voted on by non-players, whereas the Lindsay is voted on by the players in the league. So a lot of players feel that the Lindsay Award is more recognition from their peers that they're good. And I think that they appreciate the Lindsay just as much, if not more, as the Hart Trophy.
Can we
Sure,
explain?
but the nominees are the
The
same.
Lindsay Award is for the most outstanding player in the regular season, as judged by the members of the NHL Players Association, and I read that directly off Wikipedia, so if it's wrong, blame Wikipedia.
Exactly. So the players vote on that award, and that's why I think it matters to them a lot because it's, recognition from the guys you play against and with that you are the best. And so
I
I
would agree.
definitely think that one matters.
I just don't think we have to talk about it because the nominees are the same as the nominees for Hart.
Fair
So-
And I
enough.
don't think that that's going to change. I think Crosby's going
Yeah.
to get it regardless.
Yep.
I guess.
Do any of you care about the NHL Foundation Award?
I hope Burns gets it.
It's a toss-up who will get it because each one have contributed a lot to the community, so it could go either or way.
I want Burns to get it because, and this is just purely personal, he shaved his Wookieess off for his foundation.
True. If anything, it's between Keith and Burns because honestly, they contributed a lot more than Bergeron has.
Yeah.
Plus, no beard, Burns. It looks really odd.
I just don't care, frankly.
Well, we do have a question that just popped up, if we want to go to that.
Yeah, let's go to that.
Marianne, I'm not even going to try pronouncing your last name. I don't know if it's been asked already, but what do y'all think of these coaching changes?
Well, Marianne, we know each other, so she could actually pretty much know my opinion of it. It's a long time coming for the Hurricanes. I mean, that was the one that was announced today. I'm actually just interested to see what Francis does. Although a lot of the people, they had a list. I was reading one of the local news guys. He was reading the list of the coaches that were in the running, and there's so many like that he was in. They've all like played together before or whatever. It drives me nuts about the organization because it's just like one big. Incest isn't the correct word, but that's what it feels like.
Like the old boys club?
Yeah, it's it's ridiculous. Like everyone like comes back and it's like they are guaranteed a job or something.
I think that's the downfall up in Edmonton right now. Is it's the old boys club. So we play together. I'll hire you, type of thing.
Well, see,
I feel like that's
thing,
been the downfall of the Habs for a very long time.
Well, see, the guy who owns it, and he's a real interesting man. He gets his friends from up in Michigan because he was some big shot with CompuWare, and then he bought the Hartford Whalers, and he kind of gets his friends involved, and then he got his son involved, and then he fired his son, or somebody fired his son, and he's not real nice to the paying fans, but it's just.
Well, I think that when you're looking at coaches, you have to nowadays you have to look at who you think is going to work with your group of players. And when you look, I mean, Edmonton, I don't really feel that was that much of an old boys club kind of thing because Eakins had been doing really well with the Toronto Marlies, which wasn't even in their organization, but he was winning with them in the minor leagues, and so they brought him up in hopes that he could help teach the young guys in Edmonton. And sure, but I'm sure he's friends with people in Edmonton before this. But at the same time, everybody knows everybody in the NHL. So
right. I think the old boys club. I was meaning it more towards their upper management, like their GM and stuff. Because I don't think Edmonton really has a major coaching problem. They just don't have somebody that's stayed long enough.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that with all the openings, I'd be surprised. The Texas Stars coach, who is the Texas Stars are obviously the Dallas's AHL team. He's been doing very well, Willie Desjardins, and I would not be surprised if a team picked him up. Would be disappointed, but not surprised.
We've had how many announcements? We've had quite a few.
We haven't had the big one yet. Everyone's waiting.
Yeah, everyone's waiting for it, but it hasn't happened yet.
The Leafs.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean,
how is Randy Carl has a job? The man, Carl. I'm just not going to talk anymore.
I don't know if they don't get rid of him. I just feel like they're just bound to make Bernier have more injuries and the whole team just sink into a whole fit of depression because hey, we've done that before, and the fans won't mind. They'll still buy tickets, and then I don't know. Maybe they're gunning for another top draft pick. I don't know. I just want them to win, and I want them to play well. I just don't want them to sit there.
Maybe at this point they're like playing a game. Like how long can we push this before our fans literally riot in front of our offices?
Well, it's just his facial expressions behind the bench just kill me. Where he's like and then his little things. He was just okay.
And I'm pushing away all your talent off your team.
I want the Leafs to do better, and I want alongside with the Sabres because that would make our games about 10 times more fun than they already are.
And Lord knows we need to stop drinking as much.
Yeah.
Or you guys could just continue to suck.
All right, guys,
Your day will come.
We've got one more question, and then let's wrap it up.
All right.
So last question is from Josh, and he wants our predictions for the Jack Adams Award.
wow.
Aw.
Oh, please don't give it to Wah. I think Babcock should get it.
Babs should win, but Raw will get it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Babs deserves it, but it's probably going to go to him.
I'd throw a shout out to Josh. John Cooper has been fantastic for the Lightning. But he's definitely not going to get it. It's definitely going to be either Wah or Babcock. Please, God, let it be Babcock.
It's gonna be Wah. You know it's gonna be Wah.
Please, God, let it be Babcock.
It's gonna be Wall.
All right, and with those predictions in the bucket, let's wrap up with what game are you guys all most excited for tomorrow night? Tomorrow we have Minnesota and Boston. Minnesota, Chicago, and Boston, Montreal playing.
Boston.
I'm more excited for Boston Montreal, but I will not be able to watch it. So I guess I'll be watching Chicago and Minnesota, and I really hope Minnesota puts up a fight and makes this a really good series.
I'm sort of excited for the Wild game tomorrow. I really hope that the Wild will come out and actually do something worthwhile, and Briz, just be good, please.
I'm really excited for the Chicago game, obviously because I'm a Chicago fan. But also, I think this is the pivotal game of the series. If the Wild win this game, they're still in the series. If they lose this game, even if they win Game 4, the series is over. So this is the pivot point. Let's go Blackhawks.
I'm not even gonna watch the Bruins game tomorrow night. I don't know if I can deal, but I will be watching the Chicago Minnesota one.
Yeah, I'm gonna be watching the Chicago game more, just because I want to. It matters more to us on the West Coast.
I just feel there's so much drama in the Habs Bruins season that I'm just to the point where, like, I don't have. I'll watch that in the condensed version on Game Center tomorrow, the next day or whatever.
I feel like if I could watch it, I'd like watch it from like a box cut off from all other communication. You don't have to listen to everyone.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I don't even want to even look at the game thread. I don't even want to open it.
Oh, I haven't touched those.
I regret being an OP for one of them. So
Oh,
much.
yeah. I saw your comment, be nice. That was the only thing, be nice. Or civil or something like that.
And we actually do have one more question, which is, how are the Cubs going to blow this game? And I say, go fuck yourself.
Cubs?
Yeah.
Cubs are going to blow the game. A fan is going to run out onto the field
Shut the
and
fuck
knock
up.
the homer over the wall for whoever the Cubs are playing.
We don't joke about fans at Cubs games, okay?
Death, taxes, and the Cubs sucking.
Exactly. Well, we can say the same thing about the Leafs, eh?
Let's wrap it up here.
Yes,
Just want to point out
absolutely.
that the Kings scored again. Alec Martinez
A
Praise
nice goal,
Martinez.
too.
Praise Wilson.
on Cinco de Mayo. Martinez scored.
And
Not
the
even
Royal
Mexican.
Half
Everybody
tweet
thinks
about
he
it.
is.
All
Sorry,
right.
the Royal Half tweet about it was "Thank you, Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo," which I thought was funny.
What was that?
The Royal Half, the King's blog, said "Thank you, Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo."
Alec Martinez is actually of Spanish heritage, and a lot of people think he's Mexican because he plays in LA. But
And his last name's Martinez. And
yeah,
Well, it's kind of it's spelled the actual Spain way instead of the Mexican way, so give him the benefit of the doubt.
anyway, let's wrap it up. I'm LA Kings Dave, and I'm actually going to be on another podcast later tonight as well if anybody wants to check it out. So we're doing the That's Our Hockey podcast later tonight.
Dang, high rolling.
I know.
So
Thank you so much for
popular.
having me tonight.
Oh, it was our pleasure. Dave was our guest star.
Here's our guest lady.
You guys can check out the upcoming podcast tonight, and you can also find this podcast on the R HockeyCast subreddit. That's r/r HockeyCast. And that's so finish our sign off. I'm Ari, and go Blackhawks tomorrow night. Sorry, Wild fan.
Was Go Liquor.
I'm Terry. Have a good night, and I just can't wait for next season. I mean,
Aww.
And I'm Cassie, and I'm hoping Briz is good tomorrow night so I don't die from alcohol poisoning.
And I am Aisha, the forever pessimistic.
And
Well,
that is Puckin Awesome.
good
Have a
night.
good night.
Night.